You're sitting next to each other on the couch. You're both on your phones. Neither of you has anything to say. And it's not comfortable silence. It's that heavy, awkward kind where you both notice it but pretend you don't. You used to talk for hours. Now you can barely get through dinner without running out of things to say. You're not fighting. There's no big dramatic moment. You're just drifting. And the scariest part, you can feel it happening, but you don't know how to stop it. If this sounds like your relationship, yeah, we need to talk about this. Because growing apart doesn't happen overnight. It happens in 1,000 tiny moments you didn't pay attention to. But before we get into it, if you're vibing with this, hit subscribe on Mura Psychology. We're breaking down the psychology that makes you who you are. Here's the thing nobody tells you about relationships. They don't usually end with a bang. They end with a slow fade. You stop sharing your day. You stop asking about theirs. You stop making plans together. You stop laughing at the same things. And before you know it, you're roommates who occasionally sleep together. You're together, but you're not connected. In that gap between being together and being connected, that's where relationships die. Slowly, quietly, while you're both just going through the motions. And look, this isn't about love disappearing. You probably still care about each other, but caring isn't enough. You can care about someone and still feel like strangers, because love without effort, without attention, without actual connection just fades. It's like a plant you forgot to water. It doesn't die all at once, it just slowly withers until one day you look at it and realize it's been dead for a while. You were just too busy to notice. Think about when you first got together. You made time, you asked questions, you were curious about them, you prioritized them. But now they're just there, part of the routine, part of the furniture, and you stopped treating them like someone you chose and started treating them like someone you're stuck with. And they probably feel the same way, because growing apart is almost never one-sided. It's two people simultaneously checking out without admitting it. The first thing happening is you stopped being curious. When was the last time you asked your partner something you didn't already know the answer to? When did you last really listen to them talk about their day, their thoughts, their dreams? Most couples stop learning about each other once they think they've figured each other out. But people change. You're not the same person you were a year ago. Neither are they. And if you're not staying curious, you're relating to a version of them that doesn't exist anymore. You're in a relationship with a memory. And this is where it gets brutal. You assume you know them, so you stop asking. You stop checking in. You fill in the blanks based on old information. And they're doing the same thing to you. So now you're both interacting with outdated versions of each other. And the real people you've become, they're invisible, ignored. And that invisibility builds resentment, because nobody wants to be with someone who doesn't see them. The second thing is you stopped prioritizing the relationship. Life gets busy. Work, responsibilities, stress, all of it. And the relationship gets pushed to the bottom of the list. You'll deal with it later. Except later never comes. You're giving your best energy to everything else. Your job, your friends, your phone, and your partner gets whatever's left over, which is usually exhaustion and irritability. And they can feel it. They know they're not a priority, and that hurts. So they pull back, and you pull back, and suddenly you're both emotionally unavailable to each other. Here's what people don't understand. Relationships need maintenance. They're not something you set up and then ignore. They require consistent effort, consistent attention, consistent care. But most people treat relationships like they're self-sustaining. Like once you're together, it'll just work out. It won't. Without effort, you drift. Without attention, you disconnect. Without care, you become strangers. And by the time you notice, the damage is already done. The third thing is you stopped being vulnerable. In the beginning, you shared everything. Your fears, your hopes, your weird thoughts at 3 a.m. But over time, you started keeping things to yourself. Maybe you got hurt when you opened up. Maybe they didn't respond the way you needed. Maybe it just felt safer to keep things surface level. So you did. And now your conversations are about logistics, bills, schedules, surface stuff. But the deep stuff, the stuff that actually connects people, that's gone. And without vulnerability, there's no intimacy, just proximity. And here's the brutal part. You're both doing this. You're both protecting yourselves from each other, which means you're in a relationship where neither of you feels safe being real. You've created a dynamic where showing up authentically feels risky, so you don't. You perform. You pretend everything's fine, and the gap between who you really are and who you're pretending to be gets wider until you're basically strangers living together.
The fourth thing is resentment is building in silence. You're annoyed. They're annoyed, but neither of you says anything. You just let it pile up. That thing they do that drives you crazy, you don't address it. You just internalize it. And every time it happens, the resentment grows. And they're doing the same thing. So you're both walking around carrying unexpressed frustration, and it leaks out in in small ways. Sarcasm, passive aggression, emotional distance. But you never actually talk about it because talking feels like starting a fight, so you just silently resent each other instead. But here's the thing. Resentment is poison. It kills affection. It kills attraction. It kills connection. And when you let it build without addressing it, it becomes the foundation of your relationship. You're not partners anymore. You're adversaries pretending to be a team. And that's not sustainable. Eventually, someone breaks, or you both just quietly give up. The fifth thing is, you've stopped fighting for it. And I don't mean fighting with each other. I mean fighting for the relationship. You've accepted the distance. You've accepted the silence. You've accepted that this is just how it is now. And acceptance without action is resignation. You're basically waiting for it to end. Maybe not consciously, but somewhere deep down, you've already checked out. You're just going through the motions until something forces a decision. And look, growing apart isn't always fixable. Sometimes people change in incompatible ways. Sometimes the relationship has run its course, but a lot of times it's fixable if both people are willing to put in the work. The problem is most people wait until it's too late. They wait until the resentment is so deep, the distance so wide, that coming back together feels impossible. And by then, it usually is. So what do you actually do if you're in this situation? First, talk about it. And I mean really talk, not surface level, everything's fine talk. Real, vulnerable, uncomfortable talk. Tell them you feel the distance. Ask if they feel it too. Don't blame, don't attack, just acknowledge what's happening. Because ignoring it won't make it go away, it'll just make it worse. Second, start being intentional again. Date nights, actual conversations, asking questions, making time, showing up. You can't expect the relationship to fix itself. You have to actively rebuild what you let fall apart. And yeah, it's gonna feel awkward at first because you're out of practice, but that's okay. Awkward effort is better than comfortable distance. Third, address the resentment. The stuff you've been holding on to, say it. Not in a mean way, not to hurt them, but to clear the air. Because you can't move forward with all that baggage, and they need to do the same. Get it all out, and then decide if you can let it go and start fresh. If you can't, that's your answer. But if you can, you might actually have a shot. And here's the hard truth. If one of you is willing to try and the other isn't, it's over. You can't save a relationship alone. It takes both people showing up, both people caring, both people deciding that what you have is worth fighting for. And if that's not there, no amount of effort from one side will change it. The next time you're sitting next to them in that heavy silence, ask yourself, do I want to fix this, or am I just scared to leave? Because those are two very different things. And staying out of fear isn't the same as staying out of love. Figure out which one it is, and then act accordingly. If this hit way too close to home, know that you're not alone. A lot of couples go through this. Some make it through, some don't. And if you want more content like this, subscribe to Mura Psychology. We're talking about the real stuff, the uncomfortable stuff, the psychology behind relationships and why they work or don't. Remember, growing apart isn't inevitable, but it is what happens when you stop paying attention, when you stop trying, when you assume the relationship will survive on autopilot. It won't. Relationships need care. They need effort. They need both people showing up. And if that's not happening, all the love in the world won't save it. So either fight for it or let it go. But stop pretending everything's fine when you both know it's not.